Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. We're going to put out some information tonight. We specifically want to talk about some recent news coming from Carole Baskin. There's some articles that she put out recently. We want to be able to talk about that. Also talk about some past things that she said. So this isn't going to be a real long day today. I can assure you the one that we do in a few days from now, I'm going to drop a lot of bombs on that one. But we're going to get started with this. I'm Jim Rathmann. I happen to be one of Joe's investigators, and with me is Theresa Mckeown. What's up, Theresa?
Howdy. How are you, my dear?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Well, I'm good. I'm just glad we're talking about this because this article that came out today where Carole said that, you know, there was no feud between her and Joe and that it was a Netflix, like, made up story. We just have to speak to that because it doesn't make any sense to me.
Right on. Well, why don't I go ahead and pull up that email? What you think?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay.
So
Give me
yeah,
1 second here.
you know, because I think this is part of a bigger picture. So she's saying that, you know, they never really had a feud and that it was kind of a TV made up story kind of thing. However, that is not the case based on her transcripts from court when she's testifying under oath. You know, she specifically spoke to a series of threats and things that were happening over the course of 9 years. Well, 9 years is long before the Netflix series came about, first of all. And then she also says, and do you have the other article where she's like, you know, there's much scarier people out there?
I do. Well, so I've got this one pulled up. So this is the one that we wanted to bring everybody in here to talk about because this is the one that was on Fox News Business. I'm assuming this is the only place that it's been, and then it's circulated its way around since then. But essentially, Carole goes on and claims that Tiger King show completely fabricated the relationship between her and Joe, and that they really didn't talk all that much other than just a few things that came out in the show, or, you know, when it came to what he was doing with the animals and what she felt was right and so on. And so that's kind of what this goes on to talk about. Isn't that right, Theresa?
Well, first of all, she's never spoken to him. They've never spoken to each other, which I find really interesting. But yeah, but that's basically it. Is she's saying that almost like a reality show, like it was just, I mean, you know, like a reality show where you just sort of take a lot of creative license. But I think I was trying to figure out why she would do something like that, or why she would say something like that when there's a clear history of a lot of back and forth things. And I think she's trying to minimize the story and minimize, you know, what happened. Like, take away from the ginormous, horrific tragedy that has occurred here. You know, keep in mind when he was awaiting trial and he was in the you know, the county jail and Grady, the reason he didn't get out on bail was because of a video that Joe had posted on his show, you know, like shooting a picture, like a doll that looked like Carole. You know, everyone's seen it at this point. And it's just him being, you know, being a showman, basically. But they use that in court as a very serious thing. And that's why the fact that he couldn't get out of jail meant that he couldn't make a living, meant that he couldn't hire his own attorneys, meant that he had public defenders, you know, so it was a snowball effect from that. So for her to come out now and say that, oh, it was nothing, it was just, you know, they just made it all up, it's ridiculous.
Well, she says it right here. Joe and I never, in fact, actually even had a conversation with each other prior to all of this. So the whole idea that was painted as the big feud between us was just fabricated for the purpose of the show. She then goes on to say, I did go after him because he's one of the people that I felt was abusing and exploiting big cats. I go after all the big guys, and he was just one of the dozen or so that are on top of my list for places that need to stop abusing animals.
And then, of course, we have the picture of him as the most wanted on her big cat rescue site. So he wasn't one of many. He was number one target.
So there's a few issues that I have with this, right? She goes out, she sits there and claims that there's no feud between them, so on. He's only exploiting big cats. Well, here's the question. If that's the case, why would he have then gone to do a murder for hire for somebody that he doesn't even communicate with, and they don't even really have a feud?
Right.
Does she know? And I do believe that she could potentially know that this is all a bunch of crap, and he's sitting in jail for it right now. So that's just one of the questions I got to ask. I mean, if this feud was completely fabricated for TV purposes, one would just assume, why would he go out and try to do murder for hire against you then? You know that.
Yeah. And also just keep in mind that there later on, before all of this, he did try to, broker a deal through PETA to let her take over the zoo. So again, he was leaving the zoo. He was leaving that life. There was no reason for him to go out and hire someone to get rid of her. He wanted her to buy the zoo, basically, at some point. You know what I mean? Or take it over.
Right. So you had another document, another report. I think it's from the Intelligencer or something like that. Isn't that okay? So you want me to show that one and let you talk about that?
This is again trying to minimize that he was, no threat to her. But again, so what I have the problem with is that she's saying this now that he's in prison. Go ahead and can you read it? The part I'm talking about.
I can. Let me make it a little bit bigger there. I'm sure everybody that's watching this on their phones getting mad at me at the moment, so I apologize. Trying to make this bigger. It's from the Intelligencer, and it says, let's see, let me find where the good part is. You want me to read the whole thing?
No,
it's not real long.
Yeah. I think it's like halfway through the first paragraph.
Okay. I feel like he is just the dumbest of the lot. There are plenty of people that are a whole lot smarter than him and better funded and a lot sneakier that should be much more capable of pulling off my murder than Joe was.
Okay, can I just then read, as you read that, can I read directly from her court transcript what she says?
Yeah, I can pull that up here.
Oh, no, I have a different one. I have a different paragraph that I'm hoping to print it out because it literally contradicts this. It says, so the attorney asked, well, what was the point of your lawyer contacting the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Oklahoma? Was in an attempt to get someone to stop Mr. Passage from making online threats. She answered, I wasn't so concerned about him making the threats as him hiring someone to kill me or working people up into a frenzy to try and get them to kill me by saying I was responsible for them losing all of their rights and they couldn't do things with animals that they wanted to do because it was all my fault, and just constantly trying to get people worked up into a rage. Very different take.
Wow.
So right. Say what you want, but make up your mind,
Right.
I mean, I'm reading what she said under oath, so I kind of think, that would be a little more believable. But I really think that, and then do you have the most wanted poster picture of him that she put on her? Oh, okay. I thought I sent that to you. But anyway, at one point he was it was like the FBI most wanted mugshot kind of picture of Joe. Like he was the most wanted. So again, he wasn't one of dozens that blah, blah, blah. And thirdly, I just want to point out that she said she went after him for the lawsuits, right?
Right. Correct.
Okay. But the lawsuits weren't about animals. They were about copyright infringement. They had nothing to do with the animals. So, so he was using a logo that was similar to her logo kind of thing and blah, blah. That was the $1 million lawsuit. She actually sued him 3 different times.
Right.
Once for the trademark thing, once for using a photograph that she had copyrighted from 2 of her volunteers, which was a horrific photograph, by the way, of volunteers at her park with bunny rabbits that were bloody, and it was just horrifying. And then the third time had to do with, again, him doing his showmanship thing, and like somebody YouTube said how you can make it look like someone's head is in a bottle, and they do this video, and it's like an arts and crafts, like macabre arts and crafts project. So he was doing that. But she sued him for that. So there were 3 lawsuits, 9 years of threats. So I don't think that would be considered a feud that was made up by Netflix.
Right. Let me go ahead and share that last document you were talking about. If you want to explain it, it's going to be the part of her testimony that she had made.
Yes.
So
okay.
hopefully everybody can read that, but go ahead.
I can actually read it, so that's pretty good. So, and here's what I'm talking about. Over the course of 9 years, I reported anytime there was a direct threat against my life by him or things that I knew that he was doing that were in violation of the law. I just wasn't seeing any action by law enforcement, so I couldn't tell you exactly when. So again, we're talking 9 years. That is a really long time to be at odds with somebody. And
right.
I don't know how you turn that into there was no feud. And I just want to point out also that I've seen with my own eyes documents from Joe's business attorneys from years and years ago, where they had sent a letter to Big Cat Rescue pointing out how much revenue he was losing at the malls, you know, when he was doing the cub petting thing, because she created a campaign to stop that. So again, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars he was losing. It was a big amount of money. So again, it just said, yes, there was a feud, and you can't minimize it after the fact, you know. And you know, all the either say you were scared for your life or say he didn't matter, but you can't say both.
Well, I will tell you this, you know, like I stated earlier, I do believe she may not have actually felt real threatened by this whole murder for hire. I think a lot of her statements have made that out there. But I will tell you this, when we tune in a few days from now, when we come on and do the next episode, I'm going to drop some things that I don't think a lot of people have thought about that has to do with Joe's case, specifically relating to a murder for hire. Stay tuned for that, because when I drop it, it's going to make your mouth drop as well, because it's going to be shocking. So that's coming up soon. We're going to reveal some things, some inconsistencies, some perjuries. We got a lot of stuff to start putting out. So stay tuned for our next episode. We'll do in a few days. We'll let everybody know, and we'll go from there.
I like the sound of that. But I'm glad you just took a moment to point out the hypocrisy that we're seeing. It's important.
Most certainly so.
Yes, indeed.
Well,
all right.
Well, thank you so very much. Hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas or time with your families. Continue to do so over the weekend. Be safe, and we'll be in touch in a few days.
Yes.
Bye. Thank you so much, guys.